Season 2 begins right where the first season ended, with the Last Men Army capturing the hybrid children and planning to use them to develop a vaccine for the hybrid virus. They also capture Dr. Adifir, whose wife is infected with the virus. Meanwhile, we see scientist Syra searching for a cure in a snowy mountainous region. She discovers a ship inside the mountain with numerous bodies and finds the book with the vaccine formula she came looking for. When the hybrid children realize that the general plans to kill them and make a vaccine from their bodies, they become terrified and start planning an escape. They ask one of their friends to bring keys from the security room. He digs through the ground to reach the room and eventually retrieves the keys. But as they attempt to escape, they are caught and returned to their cells. The Last Men Army brings Gus to Dr. Adifir, who, after examining Gus, realizes that he may not be the source of the virus. However, to learn more about the virus, he places Gus in a room with purple flowers and releases their powder, which causes Gus to lose consciousness and experience visions from his past. We learn that the virus was created in a lab named Midnight Sunday. Dr. Adifir decides to visit this lab to uncover more information. Amy arrives with Bear at the detention site to rescue the hybrid children, but guards recognize them, and they barely manage to escape. Before leaving, they toss a toy to the children, giving them hope that Amy is trying to free them. Amy realizes that she needs more help to rescue the children from the Last Men Army, so she calls on many of her friends. Meanwhile, Dr. Adifir takes Gus with him to the Midnight Sun laboratory to learn more about the virus. However, the lab is empty and abandoned, and a crocodile hybrid child attacks them, which the general's soldiers subdue with a tranquilizer gun. While investigating, Dr. Adifir finds a video revealing that scientists had been trying to create a medicine to make humans immune to illness, and during this experiment, Gus was created in the lab. The general of the Last Men Army reaches a village and urges people to join his army, demonstrating the hybrid virus vaccine on a man. Amy and Bear, knowing that the vaccine was made by killing hybrid children, are also there, witnessing the demonstration. Bear realizes that rescuing Gus alive from the Last Men Army will be difficult, so she joins them to get close enough to free him. It's revealed that Bear has a personal reason: her sister, who is a hybrid and close friends with Gus. Eventually, Dr. Adifir succeeds in creating the hybrid vaccine. But as soon as the general learns about it, he seizes the vaccine from Dr. Adifir, fearing that he might use it to cure his wife and escape. In the hybrid's cage, the Last Men Army soldiers torment the children, which angers Gus. He charges at one of them with his antlers and escapes, but he runs into the general, who gets furious and cuts off one of Gus's antlers. Meanwhile, Dr. Adifir retests the vaccine and realizes that it still has significant issues and isn't fully ready. The general calls a meeting with the country's most powerful people, telling them he has created a hybrid vaccine and plans to form an exclusive society where people can live free from disease. During the meeting, Gus arrives and reveals to the leaders that the general has been making the vaccine by killing hybrid children. The leaders, enraged, start to leave, but the general tries to stop them and turns to a powerful female leader who is even more ruthless than him. She kills all the leaders to take control of the entire country. Elsewhere, Amy repeatedly notices Bear sitting alone and crying. One day, she insists on knowing why, and Bear finally admits that he was once part of the Last Men Army, responsible for capturing many hybrid children. Furious, Amy attacks him. At that moment, Amy's friends arrive to help rescue the hybrid children, and due to her anger, Amy decides not to take Bear along. Angry and hurt, Bear tips off the Last Men Army about the impending attack, and they recruit him in return for the information. Amy and her friends attack from an aircraft, dropping gas canisters that force the Last Men Army soldiers to flee. Meanwhile, when Bear reaches the Last Men camp, he encounters a hybrid child digging a tunnel to escape, and the Last Men soldiers point their guns at the child. Bear intervenes and fights them, but they overpower him and capture him. In captivity, Bear reunites with Gus, and after being apart for so long, the two have an emotional reunion. Gus helps Bear escape, and Bear soon arrives to search for the children. The children attempt to climb toward the ceiling with a rope to escape. Outside the building, the general starts firing rockets at their plane. Meanwhile, Amy, searching for the children, reaches the lab and finds pieces of hybrid children's bodies. Enraged, she sets the lab on fire. Meanwhile, the army catches the children, but Bear and Gus arrive and begin fighting them. Bear struggles to handle them alone, but the children come back to help, and together they defeat the soldiers and escape on a bus. Amy also joins them. The general sees them leaving and orders his soldiers to chase them. The soldiers block the bus, but Bear and her allies arrive just in time to help. A tank appears, firing at the bus and destroying it, killing their hybrid friend, a rabbit child. Dr. Edifier finds Gus's antler on the road and brings it to the lab to test it, suspecting the hybrid could hold the cure. However, he discovers that the lab has burned down, and he is furious. The group reaches a forest hideout, but Amy, infected with the hybrid virus during the fight, decides to leave to protect them. Bear stops her. Gus listens to a recording of his mother, and the story shifts back to the past. In the lab, we see the scientist who created the virus, with her assistant Syra, who is now infected. Syra asks if the medicine is ready, but the scientist remains silent. Syra then reveals that her grandfather had first attempted to create this medicine, but he and others were infected. To prevent the virus from spreading, they had retreated to snowy mountains. This is the same place Gus's mother was seen visiting at the beginning of the series. Meanwhile, the general discovers the children's location and prepares to attack. Bear suggests they flee, but Amy insists that they must face the general instead of constantly running. Gus sends the other hybrid children away and decides to confront the general with his friends. Gus sets traps throughout the forest, killing many of the general's soldiers. Eventually, the general reaches Gus and shoots him, hitting his leg. Just as the general is about to kill him, a herd of wild bison charges, injuring the general. Gus believes the general is dead, but as he tries to leave, the general shoots an arrow from behind and Gus collapses unconscious. In his unconscious state, Gus sees his mother in the snowy mountains, calling for help as she is in dire condition. And with this haunting vision, the season ends.